my great pleasure to present to you Robocop. There's a new guy in town. His name's Robocop. I'd buy that for $1. I like it! Drop it! Please put down your weapon.
Welcome to the Don't Get So Emotional podcast. I'm Paul and I'm joined once again by Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Paul.
This week we're talking about something that I think is really cool.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
And there's a little clue there. Let me get this a little bit. So here we go. There's one clue. There we are. We're talking about a classic film, Robocop. And the reason we're talking about Robocop is because this has just been released. It's called Robodoc, the creation of Robocop. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's a Blu-ray disc, 2 discs. You also get in there some little postcards. I'll show you the postcards. You get the postcards there. You also get the poster. And if you're not into physical media like me, and if you're not, it's up to you. You can also stream it. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Amazon. You can watch it anywhere. It's out. But we're going to talk about Robocop, and we're going to talk about this film as well. So, Tom, you mentioned about this Robodoc, and I didn't even know you were a fan of Robocop.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite films. Like, people take the piss out of me for it, but it's one of my favourite films ever. I just think it was a masterpiece.
Do you have one of them?
No. No, I don't.
I'm just a big kid. I'm just a big kid. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm a massive fan of Robocop, Terminator, Alien, Predator, all of those old sort of classic sci-fi films. I guess they're kind of the old classic sci-fi films for my, not my generation, a little bit earlier than that, but you know, it's not like 2001, you know, Space Odyssey.
Did you see it in the cinema or did you see it on video?
No, I didn't see it in the cinema. I was a very young. Well, no, I weren't even born. When did it come out again?
1987.
Yeah, I was -1.
Okay.
But as a child, my parents had it on video. The first time I ever watched it was when my parents weren't in the house, and I weren't allowed to watch it, but I put it on anyway. And it probably traumatized me.
I saw it in the cinema. I was one of the lucky ones to see it in the cinema. I just think it's a brilliant film. I just think it's a science fiction film, but it's also got a great story. And watching the making of and all the bits and pieces, Paul Verhoeven, is brilliant. I mean, he's such a good director. He actually saw it as a religious piece. He saw it as almost like Robocop is like Jesus.
He was really reluctant to do it to begin with, wasn't he? Because it wasn't anywhere near the kind of film that he would normally get involved with.
Well, he looked at the name of it, Robocop, and he just went, no. And if you think about it, it is a stupid name.
I don't know.
Well, it's a brilliant name.
It.
No, of course we love it now, but when you first heard it, you thought, oh, it sounds a bit weird. That's probably where everyone passed on it. But
The typography of the logo is what sells the name for me. Yeah. But yeah, I think the first time I saw it was I watched it on tape when I was a very young child. I weren't allowed to watch it, but I watched it anyway. And I think it probably traumatized me because certain scenes have just been ingrained in my brain for the rest of time. But you know, the Ed 209 part.
Please put down your weapon.
It just feels like, I think in the actual cinema release, they had to cut the amount of time it was shooting in for. But on the video I was watching, it went on for ages.
the
And
director's
there
cut,
are, yeah, director's cut versions where, you know, the gore's been added back in because they had to cut some of it out to make it, you know, to get it into the cinemas. But that, you know, Murphy's, when he was killed, that was also another thing that traumatized me. When one of them drove into a toxic waste.
Yeah. I think
thing, and then,
the opening scene, and they do touch on this in the documentary, is the way they get you to see. They don't get you to see Robocop. The way it starts is you don't see him. You see the people, you know, in front of him, and he's, you know, and you don't know who he is. And there's a scene where they ask him to come forward, and he walks, and the first time you see him is on a TV screen, and he walks past it, and it's so clever. And then you still don't see him. Then he walks into the thing. You just see him walking like a, you know, like a sort not silhouette, but you know, you don't really see him. And then he sits on the chair. And that's the first time you see him. But it's such a brilliant film.
I love that. I love that sound of the walk as well. The sound effect of him walking. The bit in the police station where he's walking through, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And they follow him into the firing range. Yeah.
Well, they actually won an award for the sound design on the film. But it's a fantastic film. And let's talk about this. What have I done with it? Oh, it's here. Let's talk about this. So this Robodoc, which is available now, I'll put a link in the description. I first heard about this film many years ago when I got this. Okay, so Ian Lee, hi Ian, did a night, and they did a screening of Fright Night, and they were talking about this making of film, and I bought it, and it was really good. Gary Smart was the guy, I think, that was with Ian, and they said we're going to be doing a Robocop thing, and that was years ago. So this Robodoc documentary, 4 hours worth, it's been years in the making. And I remember when they were talking about doing it, they couldn't get Peter Weller involved. And the icing on the cake is he is actually in the thing. It's honestly, it's a fan-made film. It's one of my favorite DVD documentaries of a film. If you love Robocop, you got to get that. But let's talk about what happened to Robocop, because it all went a bit weird. So Robocop spawned 3 films, 2 sequels. Robocop 2. Have you seen Robocop 2?
Yeah.
Which, it's okay, but it kind of forgets the whole first film. So the first film, and if you haven't seen it, I'm going to do a spoiler. The end of the film, Robocop walks off, and the guy says to him,
"Nice shooting, son. What's your name?"
Murphy.
So it's kind of like he's realized he's not a robot. He's realized he's a man, although he is trapped in that body. The second film starts, totally forgets that, and it goes back to Robocop not knowing that he's Murphy. And it has a couple of little bits where he's with the family and stuff, but yeah, it's a bit disappointing. It's still enjoyable. But then we come to the third one. So Peter Weller, by this time, didn't want to do the third one for whatever reason. And the third one came out, and it was like a kids' film, and Robocop's flying about the place. Now, at that time, I worked in a video shop, and I remember getting these were videos back then. We got the video, and I remember looked at the cover, and it was like him walking, and I just thought that looked shit, and it was shit. And I don't think I've watched the whole thing.
Well,
But the best
in
scene
my opinion,
is the original.
yeah, in my opinion, there is only one Robocop. All the others don't exist, including all the series and all that rubbish.
You
It's a
talking
bit
about
like-
that by any chance?
Yeah, I'm not interested in any of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it doesn't have Peter Weller in it, and it also the first film was a masterpiece.
Can you fly, Bobby?
Yeah.
I loved the thing that was clever in it was that there was a lot of satire of America at that time, or where it was heading, and a lot of it, if you go back and watch it, although it seems a bit extreme or exaggerated, when you think about what's happened since, a lot of it they got right. But I just think that the satire, the really dark comedy in it, I think the costume design was amazing. Like, if you compare, bearing in mind, I'm pretty sure this film came out before Terminator, or they come out very similar time.
No, it came out after Terminator, because Terminator came out in the cinema when they were writing it.
Oh, that's it. But they're both released by Orion. Is it Orion
Yeah,
Films?
both Orion Pictures. And
Yeah.
Orion Pictures went for it because Terminator was such a success.
Yeah, but when you put them against each other, like, I know Terminator's iconic. I'm a massive fan of Terminator, and I do love Terminator, the first film. I prefer Terminator 2, but
Correct.
the first one was still good, But when you compare that to Robocop, I feel like Robocop was way ahead of its time, in special effects, in costume design, in just everything.
Look, you got to think
So-
as well. This is a guy that's wearing a plastic suit, and Weller just nails it. And in the making of, which is actually on, I think, that DVD, and it's also covered quite extensively in the I've just got DVDs coming up here. It's also covered extensively in that. They had real trouble with the suit, and they also had trouble with him moving. Okay.
Mm.
And I think they got a choreographer to sit down with Peter Weller, and he showed him some old black and white film, and he said the way it works is your body moves and your head follows,
Yeah.
or and it's like that, and his arm might go there and then his head. And he showed him an old black and white film where they did that. I can see your cat in the background.
I heard that basically he'd spent a very long time learning how to move like a robot. Then he put the suit on and couldn't do anything that he'd learned. So he had to get a special choreographer to come in who
Yeah.
also wore the suit. Or they had two suits made so that the choreographer could teach him how to move. But also didn't it take like 9 hours to put the suit on?
It took hours, yeah. Just a quick shout as well. The soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. I've picked up this. It's actually quite affordable on the old Amazons. And I actually drove down the supermarket and I was playing the old Robocop. I felt like I was in the old Ford Taurus going off to Sainsbury's. Now, another thing we need to talk about. I don't know if you've seen this. Seen that?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it was awful.
So I saw that on a plane, right? I didn't know it was going to be on, and I think I was going to America, and I watched it, and I just thought, what have they done? What are they doing? I will try and watch it again. I do remember Gary Oldman was pretty good in it, but I just didn't like the robot. That's not Robocop.
No,
That's
that
not
just
Robocop.
looks like a guy in a superhero
That's
suit.
Robocop.
It doesn't.
Compare the
Yeah.
two.
it just looks like a guy in a superhero costume. Like it doesn't look like Robocop to me. And they painted it all black as well. So in the new Robocop, it is black and silver like the original Robocop. But then for some reason they decide to change it all to black, and then it just looks like a costume rather than an actual.
I can
You
see a
know,
train behind you. As we've mentioned before, if you want to find out where Tom lives, if you look on a map and you see a house near a train line, that's Tom's house. So, just a little bit of information, because we try and be educational on this podcast. So that reboot, I hate that word, reboot. That was released in 2014, and it was a financial success, although it had mixed reviews. Paul Verhoeven said he should be dead before a reboot was attempted. I thought it was quite funny. Alan, I think that's Nancy Allen, who's the girl in it. Nancy Allen believed an iconic film should not be remade. And here's a bit of news for you. Robocop Returns, a direct sequel to Robocop that ignores the other films, is in development to be directed by Abe Forsyth, who is rewriting a script by Neumeier, Miner, and Justin Rhodes. And Abe Forsyth is an Australian film and television actor. His films that he's made are Drunken Rumble Story, Ned, Little Monsters. Okay, I don't know any of those, but
so what? So it's a completely new film that doesn't take into consideration any of the existing films, including the first one.
no, I think it says. Hang on, let's just read it again. I think it says it ignores the sequels. Hang on, let's just have a look. I'll just read that again. Robocop
Right, so
Returns, a direct sequel to Robocop that ignores the series' other films, is in development. That to me sounds exciting.
yeah, I mean, I hope that they'll have the original costume, or at least it will still resemble the original costume, or the
Yeah.
you know.
Not resemble that, because that's
But
what we want.
to me, if it's not going to be Peter Weller, which it can't be at this point, it's not Robocop. It's like, trying to replace Arnold as Terminator. It just doesn't work. It's not the Terminator.
Well, it's like trying to redo Total Recall. Did you see that?
That was awful as well. Colin Farrell, wasn't it?
What a disgraceful film that is. It's just, it's
That's another one, isn't it? Total Recall was another one by the same.
Paul Verhoeven, yeah. Yeah. And he also did Starship Troopers as well.
Yeah, and I love all three of them films.
Yeah.
And they're good for all the same reason. There's that dark comedy, dark humor, there's that satire, and it's just really well made sci-fi. Like I love it.
Yeah. No, I think we are in agreement with that. It's a fantastic thing. And tell me about, you used to play a funny toy game.
Oh yeah,
Robocop game.
I had it was either Terminator versus Robocop or Robocop versus Terminator. It was on the Sega Mega Drive, and
Yeah.
it had a really cool what do you call it? The case that the game came in. It had a really cool cover. It had half of Terminator's face and half of Robocop's face. It was just really cool. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I think the original poster or the front cover of the video for Robocop is iconic as well, where he's getting out the car.
Yeah. Well, I think I can just show the viewers.
Yeah. But in obviously the VHS tape, you see him from head to toe.
Yeah, it's got a thing down there, wasn't it?
But that to me is iconic. But yeah, no, the game was obviously it was limited because it was back in the 90s and graphics were terrible, but it was still good. I loved it.
Who would win in a fight between the Terminator and Robocop?
Terminator.
You're right.
Terminator.
You're right. Because Robocop's just a man with a suit and stuff, isn't he?
Well, he's not. He's not. I mean, I remember watching something that was comparing the differences between the new Robocop, so the reboot version, and the original Robocop. So in the new one, they kept his brain and his face and his lungs and his hand, but in the original, all they kept was his face. Even his brain was a computer. So they didn't even keep his brain in the original one.
Well,
So
they must have done because he had memories, didn't he?
no. So when he takes his mask off, you can see it's they've just they've stitched his skin onto a computer basically. But yeah, I can't remember where I watched it, but they were basically explaining the only thing they kept was his face, basically. Everything else is a machine. And even in the film, I think one of the guys comes in and he's like, "Why has he still got a hand? Why have he kept his hand?" And then he's like, "Lose the hand." And he says, like, I told you it was I want 100% whatever.
But what's weird as well is obviously we've talked about the sequels, but then they did the TV series, then they did the cartoons, and it morphed into a kids thing. And then there's toys. They brought out. These are not toys, really. These are collector's
Collectibles.
pieces. Yeah, collectibles. But they brought out these kids' toys.
Nothing can stop Robocop.
Criminals, give up. Surprise, Robocop. Meet your match.
Robocop and evil ED-260 face off with rapid repeat cap firing.
That should hold you. Calling the Robo Jailer. Run away. You won't catch us.
But the Robo Jailer smashes through their hideout.
You'll be hiding out in prison now.
Figures and vehicles sold separately.
Back for more?
Robocop and the Ultra Police.
Which I'm going to show a clip of here, which I got from I took the footage at Retro by Ronnie's, and I'm going to be doing a feature on them in an upcoming episode. But I just thought it was really weird how suddenly this very dark character and dark story turned into a children's cartoon series. It was very, very bizarre. You know?
Well, it was kind of like Terminator. It got more and more PG as it went along. And I hate that because to me, I think someone said that Terminator really it's like a horror film. It's
well, so is Robocop in many ways.
Oh yeah, but I think even is it David? Yeah, David Cameron said really Terminator, the original film, is
David
is a
Cameron.
horror.
David Cameron.
What's his name?
I didn't know he made films. It's Prime Minister making films.
What's his name? Oh, James. Is it James Cameron? Am I going mad?
Do you mean James Cameron?
Is it
I'm going
James
to edit
Cameron?
that, make you look like an idiot.
Is it James Cameron?
Yeah, it's not David Cameron.
I don't know where I said them, but anyway.
Listen, this is
James
why
Cameron.
It's So Emotional podcast. We have very little research, and we make stuff up as we go. Look, I could let that go and kept it in it. Can you imagine the comments? In the comments, David Cameron, Terminator. That's brilliant.
But yeah, so
I think Theresa May would have done a better job than David. No, she wouldn't. No, I think Boris Johnson's Terminator 4 was quite good. Anyway, sorry about that.
but I mean, in a similar way to Terminator, to me, there's only two Terminator films. The first one and the second one.
Yeah, the second
Terminator
one.
3. Terminator 3 really doesn't exist. Like, it just that should be taken off all streaming platforms.
How many
Every
is there?
single
Five?
copy.
5, isn't it?
So there's Terminator 1, 2, 3, and then there's Salvation,
Oh,
Genesis, and Dark Fate.
Dark Fate.
But there was also
Listen, I'll tell you this story, right? I went to the cinema with my son and they wouldn't let him in. So I bought the DVD. I said, we'll watch it on DVD. And we went home and I read the reviews of it and they were so shocking that we sat down and watched Terminator 2 instead.
Well, the last one, and then maybe a little bit of Genesis too, Genesis as well, was they'd made it a bit woke. So there were like lesbian characters, there were more women characters, there were women Terminators and whatnot.
Like the
but,
Indiana Jones one that they woked up and ruined.
Oh,
Why
I tried-
is it that Hollywood has to get their teeth into a thing and then totally ruin it for fans. And Doctor Who, they've done it with Doctor Who. They've totally ruined Doctor Who. I know you can't compare Doctor Who with Robocop, but they've ruined what was a great memory for people.
Yeah, but they've
I
also
wouldn't have a
done it with
TARDIS behind
Alien.
me now because it's
They've done it
embarrassing.
with they've done it with Alien. They've done it with Predator. They've done it with Terminator. They've done it with Robocop. It's basically any iconic film gets kind of watered down into this PG woke crap. And yeah, it's just because obviously they're trying to capitalize on something that's popular or well liked. But that's why films like the original Robocop, the original Terminator, the original Alien won't get made now because they were 18 plus, and immediately that limits your audience, doesn't it?
I thought
So that's why.
Aliens was better than Alien, didn't you?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I really liked Aliens, but when you consider when Alien come out,
Yeah.
it wasn't that long after Star Wars, and it's, in my opinion, if you compare the two, like, I know it was a much smaller kind of film, but to me, it's timeless. If I watch Star Wars, it looks dated. When I watch Alien, it doesn't look dated to me. It looks timeless.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of intentionally tried to do the same thing in Aliens, but they didn't want it to be all modern and sci-fi. They wanted it to be like an old beaten up ship with a load of truckers on it. Do you know what I mean?
Is there a film franchise that hasn't been ruined? I was just thinking Star Trek. Okay, I like the original Star Trek TV series, and I like the Star Trek films with William Shatner, who is a fantastic icon in my eyes. And then I think what they did with Star Trek is they went on to the Generations and then all that stuff, and it just like it watered it down and just became just totally rubbish. But I'm trying to think: is there put in the chat a film series which has remained consistently good? Because I don't think there is one. I can't think of one.
My
Oh, hang on,
girlfriend's
Top Gun, the new Top Gun.
My
The new
girlfriend's
Top-
whispering Harry Potter, but it's
No,
that's not the same.
bloody Harry Potter. No, the new Top Gun is every bit as good as the original. There you go. If not
I
better.
don't know. I don't know whether I agree with that. But
Have you seen it?
I mean, it even happened with Rocky.
Yeah.
They got shitter and shitter, and now there's a new kind of spin-off of those films called Creed.
Yeah. Don't.
And I mean, even Rambo went on for too long. Spider-Man.
Mad
I mean,
Max.
look at all of the Marvel films.
No, I don't want to.
Does anyone want to watch another bloody Avengers type film? I'm so
I
sick
didn't
of
want
it.
to watch Listen, I'm old, right? Everyone knows that. Everyone will tell you in the chat that I'm old. I love the Christopher Reeve Superman 1, 2, 3. Don't talk about 4. Oh shit. Did you see that? Sorry about that. Yeah, I love Superman 1, 2, and 3. Don't talk about 4. We're not allowed to talk about that. But I love the original Christopher Reeve. In fact, Superman 3 is one of my favourites. You know, the bit where he fights himself, Clark Kent versus. I love it. Then you see what they did with Superman. They did like Superman Returns, where they kind of wanted to. It kind of had a flavour of those original films. And then it just went awful. And then it's Superman versus Batman. And then no one cares now. No one cares. You've ruined it for me.
Do you know what? Do you know what? One of the, if you call it franchise, whatever, that has remained relatively consistently good is Batman. I can't think of a terrible Batman film.
I can.
The one with George Clooney.
Yeah.
His costume had big nipples on it.
That's something. Talking about Superman, by the way, I know we're jumping about, but that's what we do on the Don't Get So Emotional podcast. I saw a thing yesterday on YouTube, and you're on YouTube now, everyone. So once you've watched this, have a look. There's a thing about Superman, and there's a Nicolas Cage version of Superman they started filming. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
And they've got all the clips of it and stuff, and then they ended up using a bit of, and it looks really, really strange. And I'm glad they didn't make it because well, anything after Superman 3, that should have been the end. No more. But no, as you said, they carry on, continue destroying people's memories, and Christopher Reeve was the best Superman. Anyone who doesn't agree with me on that is an
It
idiot.
also happened with horror films like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Or Evil
They
Dead.
just got shitter and shitter as it went on.
Evil Dead. Scream.
Halloween.
Mind you, I quite like the last Scream.
I felt like I was watching a spoof because they kept referencing the movie so much that it felt like I was watching a film that's meant to be Scream about Scream, and it was just really weird.
Yeah.
But it was all right.
So anyway, Tom, the question everyone is asking in the chat, and I don't know how I can do this because this has been recorded, but when are you going to watch Robodoc, and how are you going to watch it? Are you going to stream it, or are you going to be a physical
Well, the problem
person?
is, it was on Amazon to watch for free, as long as you signed up for a trial of some subscription thing,
Right.
not Amazon, but an additional thing on Amazon.
Yeah,
which I didn't end up doing. But now that's
here we go.
ended.
Here we go. Just so you see these.
Yeah,
Look at that, Dick Jones. These are the postcards. Oh, look at that. These are the postcards that come in the. Oh, what's that? That's that like that. These are the postcards.
But the problem is now that free trial is over, and the only way you can buy it is if you. I think there's 4 episodes, and you have to pay for each individual episode.
Listen to me. Do you have a Blu-ray player?
No, it's 2024, mate.
Okay, I have DVDs and Blu-ray players. I think you should get a Blu-ray player because there's more than 60 minutes of bonus features on this, which includes, let me tell you, I wonder I should get commission on this. Meet the Makers, Robo Team Assemble, Major Firepower, Call to Action. Also, one thing as well, this is why physical media is so important. If you get the Blu-ray of Robocop, which I haven't even opened yet, it's actually got a commentary and director's cut special edition content. I mean, look at the extras on that. I mean, look at that. It's just anyone who doesn't do physical, in my opinion, is an idiot. For film you love. For film you love. Because you don't know if it's going to stay the same online. You don't know. They could change it all. That's happened. If you agree with me in the chat, put your comments. To finish, Robocop, we both agree, is an absolutely fantastic film. This new edition, Robodoc, is also a fantastic film. And put your comments in the chat. We want to hear, what do you think about Robocop? Did you see Robodoc? Did you like it? And anything else you want to say? Abuse for myself and Tom. We love reading it.
And also, seeing as you said that it's a shit name, why don't we ask people to put what they think the name should have been?
Well, no, I don't think it's a shit name. I can understand why people didn't want to get involved in it because it sounds like it's going to be shit, but it is what it is. Also, one thing we didn't mention, there was a toy called Robocop, which is actually worth an absolute fortune. I'll put some stuff on the screen.
Can I give some context?
It's called Robodoc. No, it's called Robocop 2. And it's actually quite expensive to get, which I thought was funny. If I ever saw one, I would buy one just because I'm that sad.
Can I give everyone some context? Because you were talking to me about the fact that you were getting this new action figure or collectible item, and a day or two later, you sent me a picture of that Robert 2 cop thing, whatever. And I was like, is that the thing he was talking about? Is that what he was? And I was thinking, he's mad. I didn't even notice that it said Robert Cop. I didn't even notice that the stupid slogans that it had underneath. I was just thinking, that's a shit.
The furniture of
yeah. What was it?
The furniture of law enforcement.
Yeah, the furniture of law.
thank you so much for clicking and watching. It's been fun.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
Try not to swear, please, due to problems.
Problems?
Yeah, we've had people complaining about the bad language.
No, they haven't.
Yeah. My mum. Oh! There we go. Ah. Almost like I'm professional, isn't it?
Oh God! I want to wear my glasses because, but then all you can see is the reflection.
Yeah, same here. What are you worried about? What we got on the telly today?
It's a robot walking on the moon.
All right, and you're copying me with the funny old robots as well. Yeah, copying me. It's been noted. It's been noted. Yeah. Does it do anything? Hang on. It's my one. Are you ready? God. This is ridiculous.
I put it up to the camera and it winks at you.
I need to get a hat, I think.
Yeah. You've been talking to me. You interrupt me now.
And remember, we care.